Back in December 2019, I graduated from university with my Masters in Philosophy. There, I studied mainly analytic philosophy after discovering that it was the one I liked the most at my undergrad. Why have I humble bragged this to you? Well, it is relevant, I'm not just being an arsehole, and that is because since I finished my degrees, I haven't read any analytic philosophy until now for reasons. So essentially, I decided to read Thomas Nagel's What Is It Like to Be a Bat. Why? Because for 6 years of my life I was obsessed with this paper. I read it every year, the problem it presents, and even making attempts to solve it. Maybe I'll read it to you sometime, my attempt, that is. So, what is It Like to Be a Bat? One of the most influential papers in philosophy, that's what it is. Well, philosophy of mind at least. And it attempts to demonstrate or re-demonstrate the mind-body problem. So the mind-body problem, what's that? I hear you cry. It is a criticism of reductionist theories of the mind. Take our body, a purely physical being, and our mind. This is a thing we cannot seem to accurately explain with just what we find in the physical. Now let me explain through Nagel why this is the case. So, we're going to use the example of water as H2O. This we can all say is a scientific fact. Physicalists will claim that this is much the same way that mind is X, and X being whatever particular thing the physicalists claim. We'll go over individual examples later. Water can be reduced down to H2O in the same way that mind can be reduced down to brain. However, the physicalists is not necessarily wrong in this jump, but is unjustified for two reasons. The first is a move from one concept of a third-person object to a different concept of a third-person object, that being water moving to H2O. However, the second is a move from a concept of a first-person experience to a concept of a third-person object. They're not analogous, and it will become obvious why. And two, it is rarely explained how this leap is made. The leap between H2O and water is explained through scientific experiment. Scientific observation. You can look at water, zoom in on it, and see that it is H2O. I mean, you need a good microscope, but it is possible. That's something you can do on your own. However, there has been, according to Nagel at least, no proof that consciousness can be reduced in the same way. Yet we find that is so convincing in the mind is body statement, and that is because from a young age we are taught to accept is statements as truth without actual proof, yet promise that there is proof out there. Nagel uses the example of matter as energy. We're taught that this is true from a young age, but we are hardly taught the proof. Imagine that in like a nursery classroom. Okay kids, so who wants to explain to me how to convert matter into energy? So what of bats? A bat is far enough away from us in its physiology to make us think that the way it understands the world is entirely different from how we do. For instance, they perceive the world through sonar, unlike us, but it is not so far away down the phylogenetic tree that many would call into question it being conscious, like some may do for an insect. I mean, octopodes are far away from us down the phylogenetic tree, but I have no doubt in my mind that they are incredibly intelligent and conscious. But, you know, that's a story for another time, perhaps, if I tell you about my own thoughts on this. We, the physicalist, will therefore hold these beliefs. First, that the bat is consciousness, and then second, that consciousness is fully reducible down to something physical. If we therefore understood the physical nature of a bat, then we will understand what it is like to be a bat. Nagel then runs the main reductionist theories through his little test. Behaviorism. This is simply the idea that consciousness can be reduced down to behaviours associated with it. So, if you behave like you're in pain, you are in pain. Now, if that view has just raised some eyebrows, then can't say I blame you. But Nagel dispatches with it anyway, quite simply. If I dress up and behave like a bat, then I must know what it is like to be a bat. But even if this did bring us anywhere close, it is not telling me what it is like to be a bat. Instead, what it is like to be me pretending to be a bat. And therefore did not tell us what it is like to be a bat. Identity theory and functionalism. Now, though these theories are wildly different, they converge in enough points for this criticism to attack both. Don't ask me what. This video is already long enough and I am very tired. Maybe I'll show you one day about this as well. I actually would, because I think I am a functionalist. A very niche functionalist, but a functionalist nonetheless. Essentially, they both claim that if my physiology were the same as a bat, then I would know what it is like to be a bat. Or if my function was the same as a bat, then I would know what it's like to be a bat. Hypothetically then, let's say I was able, through degrees, to change my physiology into that to match a bat's. Then I should be able to understand what it is like to be a bat. All I will understand in reality here, then, is what it is like for me, a human, to be a bat, not what it is like for a genuine bat to be a bat. There would be many bat things that, though obvious to a bat, would confuse me. This then is also another impossible avenue. The reason this is so important is because we want to know what it is like for a bat to be a bat, not what it is like for me to be a bat. Hope is not lost for reductionism, though. If someone could prove how the jump is made from consciousness to the physical, if somebody could just explain that is in consciousness is X, then Nagel's happy to accept it, and even he eventually does so. I think in the 90s he released a paper explaining how a particular reductionist theory overcomes this problem, which, I think's cool. Someone willing to accept the opposing opinion when proved wrong. I think that's really good. I think that's cool anyway. But you can decide in the comments what you think. Do you think the criticism's good enough to stand on its own, or do you think there is a good reductionist theory that can overcome it? Obviously, I try to keep these videos short and sweet, so there's a lot more in this paper than I have been able to cover in this hopefully accurate little video. I do recommend going and reading it. We have, for your viewing pleasure, some fan art. Artists are on screen too. Remember to like and subscribe, as it helps me out. Ring the bell for notifications. Follow my socials and Reddit if you want to stay up to date. And links will be in the description for my TIL vids or YouTube, so you can check them out if you haven't already. And as always, I will see you next week, babies.